but for our region, we should avoid. We have learned in the sub-regions where there is calamity, where there is wars, it is the people that suffer. Thank you.
All right. We have overshot our time, but since Prime Minister has been so kind in answering questions, yes, we perhaps can have one or two more, please.
In future, if yuan was to supersede the dollar, would Malaysia have any problem with that in a rising global south?
You ask about the future. Normally when people ask me about the future, I say, "Que sera, sera." No, jokes aside. No, why should be tight? I mean, we use the dollar. It's still an important agency for exchange. But why should we be obsessed or dependent on that? What we are doing now is to work on a viable alternative that will be more just. I told the Prime Minister during the bilateral session, you know, last year, investments grew. Growth was impressive. Inflation was down, low, 2%. Unemployment, 3%. And still, major attack on the ringgit. Nothing to do with economic fundamentals. Just what Fed in Washington, D.C. decide. So there's nothing much we can do except to use other avenues where we can help resolve and ease the impact. That is why, whilst we still are dependent in some areas, but the transactions in dollars, but we use our own local currency denominations to ensure that at least we have certain percentage into our deals that could probably reduce the negative impact. Because finally, in managing the economy, we talk about fundamentals. The fundamentals are well guarded, and there are tough measures. Subsidy rationalization, ensure that the quality education and public health and basic infrastructure all being done. And good governance, wiping or combating against excesses and corruption, all moves are being done. But still, we are finally subjected to the decision at the Fed. This, of course, is nothing about a fair international architecture. No. I used to be, one time, even chairman of the World Bank and IMF, or Development Committee. My position remained consistent. I mean, the over-dependence of a system that do not cater for the interests of the majority, or the principle of just order, be it in the trade or in financial architecture, cannot be accepted any longer. Now, since we do not have the capacity to change now, we do it in our own way, at least reduce the impact. And I think if we can use, for example, with the $20 billion trade, or $80 billion trade, a fraction, 20%, 30% in our local currency, it will ease the negative impact.
Yes, sir, please.
I am Bassem Hillis from Palestinian Embassy. I want to thank you very much, Prime Minister, because you are mentioned about our situation in Palestine, exactly in Gaza. We hope in the future stop this aggression to our civilian Palestinian people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think in India is quite familiar from the time of Mahatma Gandhi. That position was strong and uncompromising. And I think what we try to do is just to at least give a message, a very clear message. But this hypocrisy must end. I mean, you can't talk about genocide in Ukraine because bombings of some villages. And 40,000 people killed. Well, these are, impact of war. We can condone that. But this is shocking, and I call it sheer hypocrisy. But notwithstanding, it has to end. I mean, it does not matter whether the victims are Muslims or Christians or Hindus or Buddhists or whatever. I mean, they are human beings, and in this age, for us to be, just to feel that, I'm sorry, nothing can be done. It's atrocious. I used to refer to Edward Said's politics of dispossession. I mean, we fought, India, Malaysia, Algeria, Vietnam, all fought against colonialism. There is no right for any country, for whatever reason, to conquer, control, dispossess any other society or country. But why give exception to Palestine and Gaza? Well, because some of the terrorists. Tell me in which country you don't have terrorists? In many forms and outlets. But our position on terrorism is clear, it's uncompromising. But so it is tough, it's difficult, not necessarily popular, but I think in politics and governance, Ambassador would know sometimes we have to do what is right. I think, again, I remember Gandhiji said, what is morally right cannot be politically wrong, what's politically right cannot be morally wrong. The great Mahatma Gandhi. But who bothers now? So be patient and may God help us.
Thank you very much for that answer, Prime Minister. We can take one last question, perhaps. Yeah? Gentleman at the back.
Yang Amat Berhormat Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia. Selamat datang dan terima kasih kerana melawat India. I'm Rahul Mishra, Associate Professor at JNU. I had the privilege to teach at University Malaya for 6 years, till last year. Dato Sri, in your speeches earlier, including at the Asia-Pacific Roundtable just this year, you highlighted Malaysia's Madani policy and how that is going to steer Malaysia's foreign policy in years to come under your leadership. My question is, how do you connect the Madani policy with the Global South agenda and India's role in it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, good to know that you're from Jawaharlal Nehru University. It's a great university, and I look forward to visiting it sometime, yeah. And the Madani principle, we talk about sustainability. No sustainability without justice or equitable distribution. You talk, because to me, economic growth must be with compassion. Yes, we must propel economic growth. We have all the ecosystem parameters, policies that would be able to be seen to be supportive and able to propel economic growth. But what is, to me, essential in the Madani framework is that we do put additional emphasis to the issue of values of freedom and justice, because there is deficit in issue of governance and politics, including international politics, on the issue of values, of humanity, of compassion. You talk about religion, minus humanity and compassion. You talk about politics and governance, minus humanity and compassion. So you condone excesses, you condone aggression, you condone intimidation or harassment of groups. And there's no Madani. Madani principle essentially is human principle. And I think it is important to engage and to remind business leaders, political leaders, you see, while politics and governance is important, or business and profit is of paramount importance for country, the economic fundamentals, but it has to be humane. It has to believe in the principles of justice. It must have compassion. Then you honor dignity of man and woman. Otherwise, as we have seen, there is trust deficit. There is deficit in terms of moral failure, moral precepts. Because how is it you find people can condone killings? or discrimination, or abuse and insults because they have differences in terms of color or creed or religion. That's because you talk about governance, but devoid of the values of compassion and humanity. Well, that's my my view, and not acting on philosophy. But this is so important because people become so pragmatic, so technical, you know, to develop this. You forget the fact that you're dealing with human beings. And without the essence of ihsan or compassion and justice, then you can have great strides, an excellent performance in terms of digital technology or in terms of financial capability or even economic success. But where's the humanity? Where's the equitable distribution? Why do we condone, in the name of IT, a greater divide between the very rich and the very poor? And that's where I think the principle of governance that must not ignore the importance of values, including justice and compassion. Thank you.
No, we are completely out of time now, and all right, one last question.
Thank you for a wonderful speech, and thanks a lot for addressing Gaza in your speech. My question is related to climate change. According to many scientists and some Nobel Prize winners, there is no climate change. Actually, it's a hoax created by deep state just to bring new world order and to destroy middle class. Even Donald Trump considers climate change as a hoax, and in his first term of presidency, US took exit from Paris Climate Summit. What's you?
My dear friend, Mary Dosti, you always hear this, you see, but finally you have to decide based on facts and data. And this is incontrovertible facts to suggest that you can see the decline. I mean, never mind about the scientific analysis. A basic formula. In all religions and sages, from the great Hindu sages to Islamic thought to and whatever, Western, Eastern, this destruction of land, destruction of environment, even in a small household, you go and throw everything beside your house. It gives you additional smell. And it's intolerable. And I don't think it's too difficult to understand. I mean, there are, of course, climate denials, Holocaust denial, there is 9/11 denials. I mean, makes the world rather exciting and makes some of the odd features emerging from some quarters. But please, go back to the facts and like the same. Don't be too surprised when you talk about denial of climate change, issues or problems. Because there's also there's denial. I've heard some congressmen in the United States, senators say, what atrocity? What calamity in Gaza? We have not seen any. And this guy is not blind. So there will be. That's why I say the challenge of moral precept, of humanity. Because of different color or different race, the decision is different. To me, it doesn't matter. If whether a Hindu girl or a Muslim girl or Christian girl, if she's raped or she's killed, action must be taken promptly, period. You see, I don't ask. I mean, I'm from Malaysia, and it is a multicultural, multiracial country too. Of course, the majority are Muslims, But we have a significant number of Hindus.
Did he call?
नहीं यार, मुझे टेंशन हो रही है. Let me ask एस्ट्रो योगी. बोला है आ जाएगा वापस जब गुस्सा ठंडा हो जाएगा.
वैसे और राइट मुझे भी एस्ट्रो योगी ट्राई करना चाहिए.
अभिषेक.
क्योंकि ज्ञानी तो बहुत हैं, लेकिन योगी सिर्फ एक. एस्ट्रो योगी, असली एडवाइस सिंस 2001.
जो भी हो रीजन आने का, मन होगा सब ले जाने का. Mr. DIY.
At large. So you have to counter them with strong, as I say, incontrovertible facts to defend our case, and don't take it lightly. If students have been, for example, told about this sort of mischief in the name of science, then it has to be fought with reason. And I think ultimately we will win. If we do not win in this sort of battle, then it will be a recipe for disaster for the world. I've heard this in some of my dialogues with the students. They say, why do you choose to listen to the hectoring of the West on climate change, when actually I come from a village, I don't see any problem. I say, please use your motorcycle and go to the towns and see the squatters and the dustbins not available, or the beaches full of plastics. So I think be patient, but have a clear resolve in dealing with these issues. Finally, it is a matter of reason based on facts and data available. And don't ever subscribe to this sort of fringe or aberrations within our society that just simply in a state of denial, because that does not augur well. Malaysia in the region is the most important hub for semiconductor, but it has got to go through a phase. Initially our dependence was rubber and tin. Similarly, it is changing. The only problem is, of course, some countries in Europe and the United States, in their campaign, vigorous campaign against the use of palm oil, but more so to protect soya bean. So we have to deal with this. But I think certainly we are diversifying, and that is why it is also important strategically to open up and broadening the range of investments and trade between Malaysia and India, beyond what is deemed to be traditional products.
Yes.
Hi, sir. This is Abhishek Jha from CNN News 18. You talked about countering radicalism and extremism in this region also. There is one religious preacher whom the Indian agencies have been wanting to question for a long time, and there's an appeal for extradition also. I'm talking about Zakir Naik. So my question is, did that issue was also discussed when you had a meeting with Prime Minister? And what is Malaysia's stand on this extradition process that Indian agencies have been wanting?
Well, firstly, it was not raised by the Prime Minister. He did raise it much earlier, many years back. But the issue is, I'm not talking about one person. I'm talking about the sentiment of extremism, of compelling case and evidence that suggest the atrocities committed by an individual or group or faction or parties. These are of concern to us. The atrocities of Israeli forces in Gaza, that is real, and killing 40,000 people. That is atrocity, that is fanaticism as far as I'm concerned. Now, issues if raised by countries to contain, to secure understanding, and to ensure that we have good bilateral relations would continue. And we are open to any ideas, and if evidence submitted, we will not condone terrorism. But you have to produce a compelling case to support. And we have been tough. We've been working together with India in many of these issues against terrorist cells. But I don't think one case should deter us from further collaboration and enhancing our bilateral cooperation.
Yes,
Good evening, sir. This is Yeshi Seli from the New Indian Express. I have two small questions. Prime Minister Modi spoke about trade in local currencies between India and Malaysia. Can you throw light on that? And also, our neighbors, whether it is Bangladesh or Myanmar, are unstable right now. Did that come up for discussion? Were there any things that you talked about?
The decision to use as much as possible local currency is something which we acknowledge is important, a priority. Our central bank has agreed the use of rupees and ringgit. We have done so successfully, at least 20% of our trade with China, or 18% with Thailand, or close to 20% with Indonesia. So we're expanding this to use local currency denominations in our trade. And I certainly responded very positively to the proposal by Prime Minister Modi on the need to use local currency, rupees and ringgit. And I think it's time that countries in the global south wake up and depend on themselves and their comrades rather than depending on the more obsolete monetary system that has weakened our position in many fields. On the issue of Myanmar, yes, we did discuss. We're a bit concerned about the developments now, but I think we need to engage a bit more. ASEAN position of the 5-point consensus is not to recognize. But notwithstanding that, we do accept the need to engage at the different level. And I've mentioned this because India can participate in this process. We are all concerned. Now, on Bangladesh, the development, of course, is still being debated. I did make a call to Professor Muhammad Yunus to say that, we wish them well, hopefully country is stable and protect the issue of human rights and the rights of minorities. He has given categorical assurance to that effect, and we need to give them some time. And we, as neighbors, particularly India, should do whatever we can to ensure that there is a peaceful transition in Bangladesh, what the people decide, but finally through a democratic process. And I just hope well for people of Bangladesh, and I think our duty is to make sure that there is peace immediately, and then the transition that they plan should happen as soon as possible, particularly democratic transition, because economically they were doing relatively well, and they need to sustain that and probably enhance that or propel